Hello and welcome to this edition of The Payoff. I'm your Goldfarb, joined by Rick Rockwell. We're going to be diving into the world of professional wrestling, discussing storylines, ideas, and of course, potential payoffs on prop betting. Today we're focused on SummerSlam weekend. Two big shows put on by WWE with NXT TakeOver Toronto on Saturday, WWE SummerSlam on Sunday. Odds reference here available through Sky Bet. We're going to be breaking down a handful of what should be the biggest matches or the most intriguing matches from a betting perspective. We're going to start with NXT and just get these out of the way. Rick and I agree on these wagers. Roderick Strong will win the North American Championship triple threat match over Velveteen Dream and Pete Dunne. That would pay out at minus 120. And Adam Cole, baby, will retain his NXT Championship in the 2 out of 3 falls match against Johnny Gargano, paying out at minus 300. So, Rick, that leaves us with a couple of matches, 3 matches, in fact, to discuss for the NXT card. We're going to start with the Tag Team Championship match, the Street Profits defending against the Undisputed Era. Street Profits, the champs, and the underdogs at plus 110, the Undisputed Era, minus 150. These lines were both minus 120 as of the day before recording. So they have shifted somewhat dramatically with now Undisputed Era being heavily favored. I know that you were leaning towards the Street Profits as of yesterday. Have you changed your mind?
You know, I think the Street Profits should win. I think they should keep the belts for a little bit longer. I was reading how one of the reasons they've been up on Raw was to get a little more interest in them and the NXT titles and hoping that they draw more viewership or more attention to NXT because of their personalities and stuff on Raw. I haven't seen anything saying they're going to be coming up on Raw anytime soon. In fact, everything is pointed the opposite, saying there's no plans on them having them wrestle on Raw anytime soon. It's like, what's the point of continuing to do backstage segments if you're not going to have them actually wrestle? When are they going to wrestle? Do they wrestle after SummerSlam? Do we get like kind of a new, like they do after WrestleMania where they have new storylines and stuff? Are we going to have little new things like that? Street Profits come up? With the line shifting that much, it says something's going on to where people believe Undisputed Era is going to win. I was all in on Street Profits yesterday. With the line shifting like that, I'd be a fool not to say or not to at least go in that direction. You and I have talked about it. We would love the Undisputed Era to hold all the belts. And for that to happen, they would have to win this match as well. With the line shifting like that, I have to side with them now in winning because for the most part, when we've seen it in pro wrestling betting odds, when lines shift, noticeably, something happens. And usually where they shift towards who becomes a bigger favorite, it usually is winning. You got to go with Undisputed Era here because of that. I know you have different reasons why you want them to or think they should win. I'm going with that, because the steam's heading in that direction.
My thought with the Street Profits is the reason that they've been shown in the background is basically as a soft launch for them on the main shows. And the reason they're not being put in matches is because how does anybody win in that situation? Because if the Street Profits come in as the NXT Tag Champs and lose to any team on the main roster, that devalues the NXT Tag Team division. And if they come in on the main roster and win, it devalues the main roster tag division. So it's really difficult to do that kind of Kevin Owens challenging John Cena storyline correctly, where that one was done really well, but it was because the belt that Owens challenged for was not the main title on Raw or SmackDown, and was also a guy who couldn't be harmed by losing to a new talent. There was nothing that was going to happen to John Cena by putting over Kevin Owens. My big thing is this. The 2 picks that we agree on with Adam Cole and Roderick Strong, I made simultaneously with this because I thought there was the possibility at the last show they were going to do Undisputed Era with all the gold. And I really think that now is the time. The only factions, I went back through as much as I could find, and the only 2 factions I have seen that have simultaneously held the top secondary and tag titles in WWE or NXT history, this does not count WCW, are the Corporation and Evolution. The Corporation did it technically twice in mid-late December of 1998 And for one night in January of 1999, The Rock was WWE champion, WWF champion. Ken Shamrock held the Intercontinental Championship, and Shamrock and the Big Boss Man were the tag team champions. All simultaneously. That was an unbelievable way to get the corporation to be the evil entity that they were. Evolution did it for 2 months, from December of 2003 to February of 2004, when they held all of the main championships: Triple H, the World Heavyweight Championship, Randy Orton, the Intercontinental Championship, and Batista and Flair, which it completely slipped my mind that Ric Flair was a tag team champion in 2003, 2004. But the two of them held tag titles during that stretch as well. So I think that this is a way to make Undisputed Era the ultimate, like put them in that kind of echelon, and it immediately makes all 4 of these guys that big, which anyone who is an NXT fan believes they are that big, but it would put them in that kind of category. And when they eventually get called up as a group, and you can say that they are only the 3rd faction to hold the top, secondary, and tag titles simultaneously, and put them in the same category as Evolution. And if you want to make them evil, put them in the same category as the corporation. That is one heck of a way to be able to do it. I liked him at -120. I still like him at -150. Let's go to the women's championship match. Shayna Baszler, the champ, defending against Mia Yim. Baszler -200, Yim +150. Which way are you going on this one, Rick?
I don't even know how many months in a row I've said this when it comes to the champ, but Shayna is a beast, and I don't see any reason to take the belt off of her until they call her up to the main roster. And even then, I would have her bring the belt with her up to the main roster, because if she goes up there and wreaks havoc with the belt, she simultaneously becomes a star on the main roster and brings that belt up even more. And they've done it before, where they've had the women's title for NXT have some get some shine from coming up onto the main roster. I think she's going to win again. I don't see any reason for her not to win. I think they have something really big with her, that if they don't mess it up when she gets in the main roster, she could become right up there on the same, upper echelon with Charlotte Flair and women like that. She has that potential. She has this capability. She has the gimmick. It's just a matter of the story, the creative writers team, who I bash 90% of the time. And don't get me going, because I will go for a half an hour on just how terrible and inconsistent they've been on both shows. I'm taking Shayna and win, keep the belt.
I believe I went against Shayna at the last NXT show, and it was because I keep thinking she's on that verge where she's going to just have to be called up, and she's going to need to go to the main roster, and they need to give someone that shine of being able to say they beat Shayna Baszler for the title and knocked her out of NXT. Because it was one of the things where Asuka got called up when she was NXT Women's Champion, she just forfeited the belt, that it did not allow for them to build the next person to replace her immediately. And they did get there, obviously. And if anyone could do it, it's the NXT staff. But the one thing with this one, and I'm going to again go with the other side, I'm going to go with the challenger. This is the one fight that I think the side that offers the positive value might be a good play. And the reason is because of the way they've been building Mia Yim up, where she has been attacking Shayna Baszler and her minions from the 4 horsewomen of MMA in the same way that Baszler had gone after previous opponents. She is targeting them to the point that Baszler has been coming across as the one being attacked and has been trying to call that out and scream it out. And I think that this is an opportunity for them to basically replace Baszler with babyface Baszler and send her on her way if they want to. I think that there's going to be opportunity with the way that the women's divisions are going, when we're looking at the main roster in a moment, that Baszler would immediately make for an outstanding challenger for one or both of the potential WWE women's champions, effective the Monday after or Tuesday after SummerSlam. So I think that Yim might offer some betting value of +150. I think she's worth a flyer in this situation, because I do think that the way they've been building this, Like, and that might just be really good writing from NXT where I bought into it, where I buy Mia Yim as a challenger. But I do buy her as a challenger, and I do really think that she might be able to unseat Baszler because of the way they've done the build. Let's go to the other women's match that's on this card. The odds are very spread on this one, but it's Io Shirai against Candice LeRae. Shirai is heavily favored at -400. LeRae plus 275. Shirai, that new attitude, new approach, new mentality going up against Candice LeRae. I believe that Shirai is going to win this one to try to put over her new approach. And also I think that the Garganos do very well from coming from a point of being behind. So I think that that'll serve Candice LeRae well as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I don't see her losing. She's a heavy favorite for a reason. Like you were saying, her new attitude or aggressiveness or just this different approach that she's taken clearly has translated to where, the online betting sites view her as a heavy favorite. There's no reason to go against her. I wouldn't even risk a flyer. I mean, you have a legitimate case for a flyer in the last match. For this match, I don't even see an argument made for that at all. No, you got to go with the favorite here to win. It will be a good match, don't get me wrong, just the outcome should be in her favor.
I agree. I don't think they're going to, damage that new character that quick. So let's move on to Sunday and SummerSlam. Again, just to get these out of the way, Rick and I agree on these wagers, and there are quite a bit of them. Kofi Kingston will beat Randy Orton and pay out at -200 to retain the WWE Championship. Becky Lynch will beat Natalya, pay out at -350 to retain her Women's Championship. Kevin Owens will beat Shane McMahon and pay out at -400 to keep his career going. Drew Gulak will retain the Cruiserweight title against Oney Lorcan. That pays out at -300. Charlotte Flair will defeat the returning Trish Stratus and pay out at -300. Really excited to see that match. And Goldberg will beat Dolph Ziggler and pay out at -500. All of those out of the way. Very exciting to see, at least from my perspective, some of the returns. I'm excited to see Trish Stratus in a one-on-one match again. That'll be fun. And excited to count the seconds in the Goldberg-Ziggler match. But let's move on to
Ziggler will make him look like he's still undefeated.
I mean, if anyone can sell it, it's going to be Dolph. So let's go to some of the matches we want to discuss because there are 4 of them here. Bayley is defending her women's championship against challenger Ember Moon. Bayley, the favorite at -250. Ember Moon, the underdog at +188. Who are you picking?
I've been so anti-Bayley since she won the belt. Almost every show I try and pick against her because I just can't stand her with this title run. I don't like what they're doing with her character. I don't like the direction they're heading in. I don't like anything about Bayley right now as the SmackDown Women's Champion. I honestly believe the division will go another level higher if they put the belt on Ember Moon. New feuds, new storylines, some freshness to a division that has basically been weighed down by 2 women, Charlotte and Bayley. And Bayley is the less interesting of the 2. I wanted Alexa Bliss to win it. I thought her and Nikki Cross would have. No, they had Bayley pull a John Cena and beat everybody and keep the belt. With that said, I want Ember Moon to win. I pray Ember Moon will win. I was going to pick Ember Moon to win. And as I sit here staring at you, Drew, and the millions and millions of people watching this, I'm stuck going with Bayley once again. The female equivalent of John Cena and her cartoon gimmicks and her shirts and her hugs are going to keep on going. And I don't know when it's going to end. I honestly don't know when they're going to end the Bayley run. I wished it was months ago. I wanted to pick against her. It hurts. It hurts. I'm hurting right now. It's like I have a brain freeze right now because I don't want to pick her.
I see the hurt. So it's funny because this is another one of those situations where we entered the show disagreeing, and then you flipped. And as I've been sitting here, and especially after we were just discussing the NXT card, I'm now flipping. I'm picking Ember Moon. And this is why, and this would be my caveat. If Shayna Baszler retains on Saturday, I'm 100% into Bayley on this one. But lining up my picks, this is where what I was getting at, where there is a lot for Baszler to do and immediately make the women's divisions way more interesting than they even are right now at the main roster. Ember Moon, if she can beat Bayley, and then you debut Shayna, not necessarily on the same night, but a couple nights later, that becomes the immediate challenge. You rehash that from NXT. You bring that back. And it would be an incredible thing to do. And I think that it would be – Ember Moon is such an exciting wrestler to watch. She has one of the coolest finishing moves in a long time. I mean, it's freaking awesome. So I wanted to pick Bayley. I was going to pick Bayley because I thought that it was going to be the easier route to take. But I think that you're going to end up with Ember Moon winning if Baszler loses on Saturday, because I then want to see Shayna Baszler and Ember Moon fighting for a main roster women's championship. And I think you could do that very quickly. I think it immediately moves that in an exciting direction. And Bayley can do whatever she wants because she's going to be at that same level with or without the title. I think Ember Moon, it makes her even more legitimate. At least it fully legitimizes her if she's got some gold around her waist. So let's move on to another championship match. Brock Lesnar, your Universal Champion, defending against Seth Rollins. Lesnar, the favorite at -188. Rollins plus 138. This line, I believe it shifted very slightly in the last 24 hours or so. So, Rick, are you taking the Beast or the Beast Slayer for the Universal Championship?
You know, I actually don't even care about this match with how they've built it up over the last month or so. It's been terrible. They've taken Seth Rollins, who was a cool wrestler to watch, who had, his own momentum going, and they've ruined him right now with just the terrible way they've booked this entire feud with Lesnar. And that comes off the heels of the most ridiculous romance on air soap opera garbage that I have seen in a long time for WWE. I would rather have Mae Young birthing a hand than what I had to watch from Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. It was terrible. It was horrible. Rollins has basically had 3 months now where he went from people loving him, 100% screaming, burn it down, to he's not getting as big of cheers as he was before. And then everything you read online from fans in media outlets and stuff, they're not as excited over him as much anymore either. They're talking about how the buzz has come down a little bit because of the way they booked this feud. And the way they booked this feud, it makes absolutely no sense to have Rollins win on Sunday. He's not even 100% healthy. You're going to have him beat your most dominant performer on both brands, the guy who's one of the longest reigning champs in recent memory, the guy who just dominates every time he comes to a show. How are you going to have Rollins beat him on Sunday? Like, it makes no sense. I know what they're doing. They're stacking the odds against Rollins so they want people to believe, oh, my God, he overcame the injuries. He overcame Brock Lesnar. He won. He already did that at WrestleMania. Like, it's pointless. I'm taking Lesnar because hopefully someone has some common sense. Hoping, crossing fingers, saying my prayers, taking my vitamins, training my pythons. Brother, I'm going with Lesnar.
I'm going to go on the opposite side. I'm going to take Seth. And the reasoning behind it, I mean, you mentioned that Rollins beat Lesnar at WrestleMania, and he did it a little underhandedly. And I could see him doing it again in a very similar fashion to take the belt back. I think that we are in the midst of a bit of a reset with WWE, where we're kind of getting things back the way that the new heads of the new showrunners want them to be. That seems to be what every indication online is, that Heyman and Bischoff are basically trying to get things, finish up the storylines that were there and hit a bit of a reset button. And if you're going to do that, you start with Seth Rollins as Universal Champion, because Rollins is the guy who is the guy. It's not, there isn't another person who's going to be the one to conquer the beast. Rollins did it. He does it again, and you could start fresh. Lesnar had the Money in the Bank briefcase. Whether or not that was a great idea is debatable, but he cashed it in. Rollins gets a match against him. If Rollins wins, you're free to do with Lesnar whatever you want. If Lesnar wins, you're kind of pigeonholed again with who goes up against him, who could take the belt off of him, who's going to challenge him. And I don't know that there's a better option than Seth Rollins. I don't know that there's a better option than that. So you do it at SummerSlam, you do it quick, you rip the Band-Aid off, and you realize that Lesnar becomes an asset again, because Lesnar is much more of an asset as a dominant, just destruction-driven force than as a champion sitting back and conquering challengers left and right.
I'll tell you who I think they should put the belt on, and I think they should do it with having beaten Lesnar, is AJ Styles, especially with Gallows and Anderson with them. If those three go up against and they gang up to beat Lesnar, it puts that faction as the top group in the entire WWE. Mm-hmm. Sets up a feud longer between Lesnar and Styles. Who knows where they can go with that? They have good matches with themselves. AJ Styles can be the champ, and he'll have a much better chance or match with Seth Rollins than Lesnar will. Like, I just can't stand where they're going with this direction. I understand what you're saying. I see your point. It just sickens me how they want to regurgitate stuff and be like, here you go. Blech. Take it or leave it. You know what? I'm leaving it because I don't want it. I want Lesnar.
The thing is, though, is that I think that it works better. Rollins versus Styles works a lot better than Lesnar versus Styles, because if you're looking from the solid audience, AJ Styles in the club is not the babyface conquering group that, I mean, you can't have Lesnar lose to Samoa Joe because some of the people who buy WrestleMania tickets are passionate for Samoa Joe and would be really excited for it, because Joe, no matter whether or not he's on Team Roman now or not, he's not. You need a babyface to conquer Lesnar. And if you want Styles to go after Rollins immediately or play the long game and have him go after him for Royal Rumble or Survivor Series or WrestleMania, that's awesome. And that is a show that, I mean, that's a match that would be outstanding. So let's actually just jump to that one next. AJ Styles defending his championship against Ricochet. Styles the favorite, -188, Ricochet +138. Do you see Styles retaining, or does Ricochet get his championship back?
No point of having Ricochet win the belt back. Not right now. We've talked about Ricochet and AJ Styles for a couple months now, and big fan of both of them. AJ Styles is arguably my favorite wrestler in the WWE, right up there with like Bray Wyatt and guys like that. There's no reason to have AJ lose this when you're trying to push his club, the OC, as a dominant, as a credible force, as a credible group, as a credible faction. He's the head of that. He's the face of that. If you have him lose, it just deflates, especially losing to somebody who's not yet on the same level in terms of stature. He's on the same level in ring talent. Ricochet is amazing. This match is going to steal the show. This match will be a fantastic match. And I think that in itself will keep Ricochet riding high as a fan favorite, as somebody who, they can root for, who they'll believe in down the road if he gets another shot at the belt or whatever. You can have a 5-star match and have Gallows and Anderson interfere. Whatever the case may be, AJ Styles winning the match makes more sense for the belt, for the OC, for moving forward, yada, yada, yada. Taking my boy AJ, I expect this to be the best match of the night, and I'm pretty excited, actually, for this match. The one match I'm the most excited for.
This might be the match I'm the most excited for, but it's not the spectacle I'm most excited for, because we're going to get to that in a minute. But AJ Styles, I have to agree with it. I kind of debated back and forth. I actually didn't really make a pick on this until we got into the show. It does make the most sense to try to build up the club. If they're going to do that, do it. Let Styles have the reign with it until it's time for him to chase Rollins, until he wins the Royal Rumble, or they have him go at Survivor Series. And basically the outcome of the next match that we're going to discuss, the last one we're going to discuss, maybe add another member and let them be what I think Undisputed Era is going to do and make them in line with Evolution and the corporation and let them by January or March hold all the gold. But I do agree with you. AJ Styles is going to win. I think Ricochet is, at this point, having lost the belt, I don't think he's harmed in not regaining the belt. I think that the in-ring performance he's going to put on with AJ Styles should become legendary pretty quick. So let's go on to that last match, because this is the spectacle I'm the most excited about. We finally get the in-ring return of Bray Wyatt, but not Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, making his in-ring debut, minus 1,000 favorite, taking on Finn Balor, a plus 550 underdog. Rick, I know we agree on this one, but this just seemed like we couldn't go without discussing the Fiend making his in-ring actual match, return debut, whatever you want to call it, against Balor.
I'm a big fan of Bray Wyatt, been for many years. Here's the thing. We both know there's no way he's losing the match. First of all, after all they put into it, put into his gimmick, his character, to have him come back and lose his first match would be the biggest debacle I can think of in the history of the WWE, WWF, WWF, Capital Sports Wrestling, whatever you want to call it. The history of it, of any McMahon associated wrestling promotion, this would be the worst by far. He'll win the match. It'll be interesting to see how much of a match it's going to be. Is he going to pull off his signature moves in the ring? Is he going to have different moves? We've seen him use the mandible claw now. Is that going to be something that becomes his normal finisher? Or is that only for people that can't take the Sister Abigail in the ring? Finn Balor can certainly take it. He'll probably get his head taken off with how much force is going to come behind that. It would be, as you alluded to, I would love to see Finn Balor go back and join the club, be the fourth member. Forget the whole evolution and forget the whole corporation talk. There's only one faction that you measure every faction up against. It's the symbol of excellence. It's the reason that factions were even anything in the history of pro wrestling. They set the bar with the world champ, with the secondary champ, and the tag team champs. You had four of the best wrestlers in the ring, four of the best talkers in the company, all together. Amazing. Still my favorite faction of all time. If you could put Balor with Styles and Gallows and Anderson, I'm not saying they're going to be four horsemen. They got similarities. They got some traits. They've got a lot of in-ring talent to start with. More than pretty much any faction that's going on right now. I would say even more than Undisputed Era. Then you have individual talents with Balor and AJ Styles. And then you had, which was one of the best tag teams in the world before they got watered down and forgotten about. They're getting built back up. All four of them have enough personality on the microphone to get that gimmick over. I hope they go in that direction. Everybody hopes they go in that direction. We know Finn Balor is going to get squashed in this match. The only cool thing is going to be the entrance and what moves that Bray Wyatt does, and if any of his puppet friends are going to be there. If we're going to get any kind of, vision of the Firefly Funhouse, that's all we're going to see. Like, that's all we're tuning in for, because the outcome is like set at minus 1,000. I would have put it like minus 5,000, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a given. The Fiend is going to win. I am really looking forward to seeing the entrance. I'm looking forward to seeing what music or sound he comes out to. The Let Me In, I'm sure, is going to be heavy. I'm really, everything about the presentation of this match has me on the edge of my seat with anticipation on it. They have done such an incredible job of building the Fiend and Bray Wyatt back up, which seemed unfathomable when he and Matt Hardy were done with their stuff. It's going to be Bray Wyatt. This match, Styles Ricochet is going to be a clinic in the ring. This match is the one I'm most looking forward to. This is going to be a spectacle. What moves will he do? Is it going to be a Sister Abigail and maybe busting out the mandible claw at the end afterwards and ringing the bell 7,000 times? Is it going? How is he going to enter? Is he just going to appear? What's the video going to look like? Are they going to just kill the lights and have him show up? Is Firefly Funhouse Friends going to introduce him? there is so much with this that is so incredibly exciting. And yeah, plus minus 5,000, I'd still take that over taking Baszler at plus 5,000, and it's minus 1,000 at plus 550. Wyatt's going to win. I cannot wait to see what he does. I hope Baszler gets nothing in. I hope maybe he throws a couple of punches and gets like a weird little like serial killer in a movie head tilt back at him or something like that. The Michael Myers head tilt. But I cannot wait to see what Bray Wyatt is able to do with this character in a squash match or whatever they do with it. Really can't wait. And yeah, if Baszler can join and make them the 4 group by like the Royal Rumble, that's great. If Baszler basically can loot, and it starts here, because if you wanted to make Baszler turn to the dark side, you can have him lose to Wyatt and then bust out the demon gimmick and still lose to the Fiend. And have him disappear for a couple of months and let AJ bring him back and let Styles basically bring back the true demon within Finn Balor and have him come out as a club, an OC demon Balor. And you're good to go. And that's how you debut the Undisputed Era too, you want to have the Wyatt family versus the Shield, but for 2020, that's what you're going with, is Undisputed Era against the club. And that to me sounds outstanding. And and we know that this is a way that you could start it, because this is how the Fiend came to be. This is how the new Bray Wyatt came out, was that he was put into a thing with Matt Hardy, and by the end of it, he just went away and all that weirdness, and it basically just brought out a new character. He was gone for a few months and bam. And I really think that this could be the start of a reinvention of a darker demon side to Finn Balor. I'm excited for it regardless.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of the, outside of the AJ Styles Ricochet match, those two are the biggest things I want to see. And then I want to see how good Ziggler makes Goldberg look. And if there's any surprises, the one thing that we haven't talked about was a confrontation between Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan / Eric Rowan. Will that happen at SummerSlam and stuff? I'm curious to see where they go from there, because when they ended SmackDown, I was a little bit disappointed with Bryan and Rowan just standing in the ring, like looking like they're shocked that their names were mentioned, when they should have been in the ring like laughing. Like Daniel Bryan should have had his evil goat flying facial hair laugh going. I loved when Bradshaw used to say flying goat. It was hilarious. So yeah, I think that's another thing I'm curious to see. But other than that, like, there's too much on this show that's not that interesting, that feels kind of like another Raw or SmackDown. So hopefully these interesting stuff will really deliver, and we can look back and say, yeah, that was a good show because of this.
I do think there's more interesting than just that. I'm really excited to see Trish Stratus back in one-on-one action. And her against Charlotte Flair. I mean, you were talking about Ziggler making Goldberg look good. Charlotte Flair should be able to bring out the best of Trish Stratus, whatever she can do in 2019. And, I think that I'm really excited to see that. I might be more excited for that than the Goldberg match, because we've seen Goldberg recently. We've seen him in one-on-one competition recently. And the other thing too is that while there's absolutely no way Dolph Ziggler beats Goldberg, there is technically a way Stratus would beat Charlotte, and that's if she's coming back, which I don't think she is. Definitely not full-time, maybe sporadically here and there, especially if she's doing a one-on-one at SummerSlam. But we did see Mickie James return. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility that Trish Stratus could come back and compete or contend for some title or something, or be a high end on the card in the women's division. So I'm more excited for that match. Owens and Shane, maybe not as much. Kofi Orton, I think, could be really good. It's always going to be at least solid because it's those two. Orton always has at least good matches. Kofi is really good. And if Orton steps up and he has that, he's talked about if you watch like behind the scenes of WrestleMania 31, where he decided to take the risk on that pop-up RKO with Rollins. If he gets into that mode where he's like, you know what, I've done good, let's do great, that match could be amazing, especially with the long-term story that one's telling. So I'm excited for the card. Most excited to see what the Fiend is like, what Bray Wyatt does. Every moment of that, from Balor, I'm assuming him coming out first, his facial expressions as the Fiend comes out, the way he comes out, everything on that. I'm looking forward to it. It should be a great weekend of wrestling. But for now, this has been The Payoff. We're going to have plenty more in the weeks to come as we discuss the storylines as they develop, random wrestling rants, and, of course, bringing you available betting lines for pay-per-views. I'm your Goldfarb. He's Rick Rockwell. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.